Western Rite Orthodoxy or Western Orthodoxy or Orthodox Western Rite are terms used to describe Orthodox congregations and groups which are autocephalous churches or are an accommodation as a rite in an Eastern Orthodox Church or Oriental Orthodox churches, but which use traditional Western liturgies rather than adopting Eastern liturgies such as the Divine Liturgy of St. John Chrysostom. While there are some ancient examples of Western Rite churches in areas predominantly using the Byzantine Rite, the history of the movement is often considered to begin in the 19th century with the life and work of Julian Joseph Overbeck. Currently, there are Eastern churches that have accommodated Western Rite parishes within the Antiochian Orthodox Christian Archdiocese of North America as a part of the Antiochian Western Rite Vicariate, and within the Russian Orthodox Church outside of Russia. Among the Old Calendarists, the former Western Rite Exarchate of the Holy Synod of Milan and the Metropolia of North and South America and the British Isles both use the Western Rite. Western Rite parishes are found almost exclusively in countries with large Roman Catholic or Protestant majorities. There are also numerous devotional societies and publishing ventures related to the Western Rite. Despite having a place within many Orthodox jurisdictions, the Western Rite remains a contentious issue for some. Origins. Western Orthodox Christians draw inspiration from, clarify, the time prior to the 1054 East-West Schism, when the Eastern Greek and Western Latin churches were one ecclesial communion, confessing the same Orthodox, Catholic Christian faith. In the East, the Byzantine Rite was the predominant liturgical rite. In the West, the Roman Rite was one of the dominant Latin liturgical rites. When, in 1054, papal delegates excommunicated Patriarch Michael Cerularius of Constantinople, and the latter retaliated by excommunicating the Bishop of Rome, many of the churches in communion with Constantinople used the Byzantine Rite, though there were still places where other liturgies, including the Roman Rite, were used. The Byzantine Rite, after the 13th century, became dominant in the Orthodox world almost to the point of exclusion of any other liturgy. This changed in the late 19th and early 20th centuries when some Western Christians converted to Orthodoxy but retained some of their Western liturgical forms of worship. 19th century. During the 1840s, William Palmer, a Church of England priest, corresponded with Russian Orthodox Church Metropolitan Filaret Rostov of Moscow, and Alexei Homyakov. The initial reason for the correspondence was to consider establishing a Western Orthodox Church in England. The project was not carried out due to lack of funds. From 1864, Julian Joseph Overbeck, a former Roman Catholic priest, worked to establish a modern Orthodox Western Rite. Overbeck converted from Catholicism to Lutheranism and married, though it is uncertain whether he ever functioned as a Lutheran pastor. He emigrated to England in 1863 to become professor of German at the Royal Military Academy, Woolwich, where he also undertook studies of the Church of England and Orthodoxy. He concluded that both the papacy and Anglicanism were on the verge of collapse. Overbeck was received as a layman, because he had married following his ordination, into the rock at the Russian embassy in London by Father Eugene Popov, the embassy chaplain. In 1865, as a part of his conversion into the rock, Overbeck requested permission from the Holy Synod of the Russian Orthodox Church to begin a Western Orthodox Church in England. Initially, Filaret was hesitant about Overbeck's request but did not rule out the idea entirely. Overbeck outlined his rationale for a Western Orthodox Church in his 1866 book Catholic Orthodoxy and Anglo-Catholicism, a largely polemical work describing why the established Western churches should be rejected. In 1867, Overbeck began to edit the Orthodox Catholic Review, a periodical for the advancement of Western Orthodoxy. Overbeck convinced others about the feasibility of a Western Orthodox Church and in 1869 submitted a petition containing 122 signatures. including many in the Oxford movement, to the Holy Synod asking for the creation of a Western liturgical rite within the ROC. A synodical commission investigated Overbeck's petition. In 1870 he stated his case before the commission in St. Petersburg. The commission approved the petition and he was instructed to present a revised Western liturgy for evaluation by the commission. He presented a revised Western liturgy in December. That liturgy was subsequently approved for use, specifically in the British Isles. Over the next several years, Overbeck developed liturgies for administering other sacraments, and for praying a divine office. Overbeck attempted to woo Old Catholics to his scheme since they had recently schismed from the Roman Catholic Church over First Vatican Council's dogmatic definition of papal infallibility, though to little avail. During this time, he continued to criticize Roman Catholics and Anglicans as well as those Western converts to Orthodoxy who utilized the Byzantine Rite. By 1876, Overbeck appealed to other Orthodox churches for their recognition of his plan. In 1879 he was received in audience by the Patriarch of Constantinople Joachim III, who recognized the theoretical right of Western Christians to have a Western Orthodox church. 3 years later, the Ecumenical Patriarch and Synod gave conditional approval to the Western Rite and Benedictine offices. However, Overbeck's efforts ultimately did not result in the establishment of a Western Orthodoxy. He was especially suspicious of the role which the Greeks in London played in the stagnation of his ambitions, directly blaming the Greek Church's protest against the plan in 1892. The Orthodox Catholic Review ended publication in 1885 and Overbeck died in 1905 without seeing a Western Orthodox church. George Florovsky summed up Overbeck's experience in this way: "It was not just a fantastic dream. The question raised by Overbeck was pertinent, even if his own answer to it was confusedly conceived. And probably the vision of Overbeck was greater than his personal interpretation." In 1898, the Holy Synod of Russia organized a diocese in Czechoslovakia using the Western Rite, clarified 20th century, while Overbeck did not live to see his dream successful. The idea of a Western Orthodox Church did not disappear. The early part of the 20th century was characterized by a series of false starts. In 1911, Arnold Harris Matthew entered into union with the Oriental Orthodox Patriarchate of Antioch under Metropolitan Gersimos of Beirutin. In 1912, with the Eastern Orthodox Pope Photios of Alexandria. Bishop Matthew's 1909 Old Catholic Missal and Ritual may have been approved as a Western Rite liturgy by Pope Photios of Alexandria, who wrote, "We have thanked God that you omit the filio clause, and that you do not accept money for celebrating masses. We agree with you as to the observance of your autonomy, and of the Latin Rite in actual use, so long and so far as they agree with the holy dogmas and with the canonical ordinances of the 7 ecumenical synods, which form the basis of the Orthodox faith." Both unions were contracted in quick succession and only lasted for an effective period of a few months. Though the union was protested by the Archbishop of Canterbury to Photios and the Patriarch of Antioch, Matthew's group claimed that communion was never formally broken off. In 1890, the first Western Rite Orthodox community in North America, an Episcopal parish in Green Bay, Wisconsin, pastored by Fr. René Villita, was received by Bishop Vladimir Sokolovsky. However, Villita was soon ordained a bishop in the Jacobite Church, an Oriental Orthodox church not in communion with the Eastern Orthodox Church. Other small groups using the Western Rite have been received, but usually have either had little impact or have declared their independence soon after their reception. Western Rite parishes were established in Poland in 1926 when a half-dozen congregations were received into Eastern Orthodoxy. However, the movement dwindled during World War II. Orthodox Church of France in 1936, the ROC received a small group led by a former liberal Catholic bishop, Louis Charles Winnert. as L'Église Orthodoxe Occidentale. Winnet was received as an archimandrite, took the religious name Iare, and soon died. Winnet's work was continued, with occasional conflict, by one of his priests, Eugraph Kowalewski and Lucien Chambeau, the latter of which oversaw a small Orthodox Benedictine community in Paris. After 1946, Kowalewski began to recreate a Gallican rite based on the letters of Germain of Paris, a 6th-century bishop of Paris, numerous early Western missals and sacramentaries, and some Byzantine modifications. His development was the Divine Liturgy of Saint Germanus of Paris. Archimandrite Alexis van der Mensbrugge, a former Roman Catholic monk, taught of the Western Church as St. Denis Theological Institute but who remained in the Eastern Rite, attempted to restore of the ancient Roman Rite, replacing medieval accretions with Gallican and Byzantine forms. Eventually, Alexis was consecrated as an archbishop in 1960, continued his Western Rite work under the auspices of the Moscow Patriarchate. In 1953, pressured by the Russian Orthodox Church, clarified to adopt the Eastern Rite, the Western Orthodox Church went its own way, changing its name to the Orthodox Church of France. After several years of isolation, the church was recognized as an autonomous church by Metropolitan Anastasy Gribanovsky of ROCOR and was in communion with ROCOR from 1959 to 1966. Archbishop John Maximovich became the archpastor of the Church of France. At this time, Maximovich had the church change its name to L'Église Orthodoxe Catholique de France. Maximovich also consecrated Kowalewski in 1964 as a bishop. Kowalewski took the religious name Jean Nectaire. Maximovich's death in 1966 was a serious blow to the Western Orthodox Christians in France. While the Russian Orthodox Church clarified its Western Rite mission with it and ended, ECOF thrived. However, after Maximovich died, Kowalewski was left without canonical protection until his death in 1970. In 1972, the Church found a new canonical superior in the Romanian Orthodox Church. Giles Bertrand Hardy was then consecrated as bishop and took the religious name Germain of St. Denis. In 1993, after long conflict with the Synod of the Romanian Orthodox Church about alleged canonical irregularities within ECOF, the Romanian Orthodox Church withdrew its blessing of ECOF and broke off communion. The Romanian Orthodox Church decided, which is contested by ECOF, to depose Bertrand Hardy from all sacerdotal functions. This decision is applied by the canonical dioceses of the AEOF. The sanction was confirmed and explained in 2001 by another document, Avis Expertus Canonique, from the Secretary of the Romanian Synod. The Romanian Orthodox Church established a deanery under Bertrand Hardy's brother, Archpriest Gregoire Bertrand Hardy, to minister to those parishes which chose to remain in communion with the Romanian Orthodox Church. In 2001, scandalized by the revelation within ECOF of Bertrand Hardy's 1995 marriage and subsequent annulment, 10 parishes separated from ECOF formed the Union des Associations Cultuelles Orthodoxes de Rite Occidental, and began negotiations in 2004 with the Serbian Orthodox Church to be canonically recognized, with the intention of the UACOR entering the Diocese of France and Western Europe. The laity and clergy of UACOR were received individually into the French Diocese of the Serbian Orthodox Church in 2006. Although the name of the church legally remains the Orthodox Catholic Church of France, it usually goes by its previous name. The Orthodox Church of France clarified North America. Saint Tikhon of Moscow's contribution to the Western Rite has been more enduring. While he was bishop of the ROC's diocese in America, some Episcopalians were interested in joining Orthodoxy while retaining Anglican liturgical practices. Tikhon sent the 1892 Book of Common Prayer, inquired about the viability of Orthodox parishes composed of former Anglicans using Anglican liturgical practices. In 1904, the Holy Synod concluded that such parishes were possible and provided a list of doctrinal corrections to the Book of Common Prayer's text of the prayers and rites that were necessary to profess in Orthodox worship. The Holy Synod also concluded that detailed changes in the Book of Common Prayer and in Anglican liturgical practices, together with compilations of new prayers and entire rites, can only be carried out on location in America and not from Moscow. While Tikhon did not receive any Episcopalians as none approached him for reception into the Rock, his efforts laid the groundwork for the later reception of Episcopalians into the AWRV following the 1975 revision of the Book of Common Prayer. The most successful and stable group of Western Rite parishes originated within the Orthodox Church under Bishop Artemios Ophish in the 1930s as part of the American Orthodox Catholic Church. In 1932, Bishop Artemios consecrated an Episcopal priest, Ignatius Nichols, as auxiliary bishop of Washington and assigned him to the Western Rite parishes. However, due to complaints from Episcopalians that the Episcopal Church was the American Orthodox Church, the American Orthodox Church that Artemios and Nicholas were a part of became estranged from what would become ROCOR and the Orthodox Church in America. The subsequent marriages of both Artemios and Nichols violated of Orthodox canon law, and left the Church and its subsidiaries without canonical recognition. In 1932, Nichols founded the Society of Clerks Secular of St. Basil as a devotional society for clergy and laity dedicated to the celebration of the Western Rite. Nichols also consecrated Alexander Turner as a bishop in 1939. Turner pastored a small parish in Mount Vernon until Nichols' death in 1947, when he assumed leadership of the society and concluded that there was no future for the Society of St. Basil outside of canonical orthodoxy. Turner described the situation the society found itself in by saying, "It was during the tempestuous days following the Bolshevik Revolution that the society had its inception as a missionary organ of the nascent Federation of American Orthodox Colonies under Russian suzerainty, though of local Syrian administration. With the collapse of that plan and the submission of the ethnic groups to the churches of their homelands, the society was left in isolation." Through Father Paul Schneerler, he began unofficial dialogue with Metropolitan Anthony Bashir. Even before this, Turner had been promoting Western Rite Orthodoxy through his periodical Orthodoxy. In 1961, the society was received into the Syrian Antiochian Archdiocese on the basis of Metropolitan Antony's 1958 edict. Upon reception, Bishop Alexander Turner became a canonical priest of the Antiochian Orthodox Church, guiding the group as vicar general until his death in 1971. Thereafter he was succeeded by Schneerler. However, after Turner's death, the sole surviving Basilian, William Francis Forbes, returned to the American Orthodox Catholic Church and was consecrated a bishop in October 1974. Besides the original communities associated with the society, a number of other parishes have been received into the Western Rite Vicariate of the Antiochian Archdiocese, particularly as elements within the Episcopal Church became dissatisfied with liturgical change and the ordination of women. The first Episcopal parish to be received into the AWRV was the Episcopal Church of the Incarnation in Detroit, Michigan. Additionally, several Western Rite missions have been founded within the AWRV, some growing into full parish status. Furthermore, when parishes of the Evangelical Orthodox Church joined the Antiochian Archdiocese in 1987, a few parishes joined as Western Rite congregations. However, many of these former EOC congregations subsequently switched to the Byzantine Rite. Among old calendarist groups, The sole jurisdiction utilizing a Western Rite is the autonomous Orthodox Metropolia of North and South America and the British Isles, with approximately 24 parishes. Due to their generally stricter stance, only older rites such as the Sarum are permitted. Elsewhere in 1995, the Church of Antioch also established a British deanery to absorb converts from the Church of England, clarified, though none of these congregations is now Western Rite. Western Rite Orthodoxy, in Australia and New Zealand, emerged mostly from Anglican and continuing Anglican communities. Some communities were received into the ROCOR by Archbishop Hilarion of the Diocese of Sydney, Australia and New Zealand. Others were received into the Greek Orthodox Church of Antioch by Bishop Gibran and Metropolitan Archbishop Paul, of the Antiochian Orthodox Archdiocese of Australia, New Zealand, and all Oceania. Saliba has recently received around 30 Western Rite parishes in the Philippines. Some Western Rite parishes are also a part of the Oriental Orthodox churches. The Syrian Patriarchate of Antioch consecrated Antonio Francisco Xavier Alvarez as Archbishop of Ceylon, Goa and India in 1889, authorizing a Roman Rite diocese under his supervision. Additionally, in 1891 the Syrians consecrated Vilita as Archbishop for the American Old Catholics. Current status in the Russian Orthodox Church outside Russia on July 10, 2013. The recognition and status of Western Rite parishes within ROCOR significantly changed. The Synod of Bishops of ROCOR, presided over by its first hierarch, decreed that ROCOR would no longer ordain clergy for Western Rite parishes. Bishop Jerome Shaw of Manhattan would be censured for unapproved ecclesial services and forcibly retired without the right to perform ordinations. Some ordinations performed by Shaw would not be recognized, and those candidates would be thoroughly examined before regularization. A commission would examine how to integrate Western Rite clergy and communities into the Russian Orthodox Church. Western Rite clergy and communities need to adopt the order of divine services of the Eastern Orthodox Church, but may preserve certain particularities of the Western Rite. Adherence to the rules and traditions of the Russian Orthodox Church in particular is required. Orthodox Church in America mention of the Western Rite often occurred in the OCA, the most prominent being a mention during a speech by the primate of the OCA, Metropolitan Jonah Paffhausen, in April 2009.